The happiest people don't feel the need to prove their happiness. My name is Olivia Carter, and for most of my 20s, I believed happiness was something you had to show. Not feel, show. I lived in New York City, worked for a successful marketing company, and spent nearly every waking hour trying to build a life that looked impressive. And honestly, from the outside, it worked. People envied me. At least that's what they told me. Every day I received messages from strangers. You have the perfect life. You are living my dream. I wish I could be as happy as you. Every time I read those comments, I smiled. Then I put my phone down and felt absolutely nothing. The strange thing about loneliness is that it doesn't always look lonely. Sometimes it looks like rooftop parties, expensive dinners, weekend trips, perfect photos. Sometimes it looks exactly like the life everyone wishes they had. My morning started the same way. Wake up, make coffee, take photos, answer comments, check engagement numbers, check follower count, check messages, check everything. I was addicted to validation and didn't even realize it. Every notification felt like a tiny reward. Every compliment felt like proof that I mattered. But the feeling never lasted. No matter how much attention I received, I always wanted more. It was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. A year before everything changed, I had been in a relationship with a man named Brandon. From the outside, we looked perfect together. Perfect photos, perfect dates, perfect vacations. People constantly told us how cute we looked. The truth? Most of our relationship existed for the camera. One night, after posting pictures from an expensive restaurant, Brandon looked at me across the table. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he asked, "Do you even know who you are when nobody is watching?" I laughed at the time. I thought he was being dramatic. 3 months later, he left. His final message was short. "I don't think you're in love with me. I think you're in love with the version of yourself that exists online." I was furious when I read it. I told myself he was wrong. I told my friends he was jealous. I told everyone he couldn't handle my success. But deep down, his words stayed with me. Because a small part of me feared he was right. After he left, I buried myself even deeper in work. I worked longer hours, posted more content, attended more events, smiled more, pretended more. The harder my life became, the more perfect I made it look online. Then came the evening that changed everything. It was late autumn, cold, windy, the kind of New York evening where everyone walks fast with their hands buried in their pockets. I had just spent 12 hours at work dealing with a difficult client. I was exhausted. Instead of taking the subway home, I started walking. Without realizing it, I ended up in Brooklyn. That's where I found the bookstore, a small shop hidden between a bakery and a flower store. The sign looked old. The windows were filled with books instead of advertisements. Something about it felt peaceful. I walked inside, and that's where I met Ethan Brooks. At first, he seemed completely ordinary. No flashy clothes, no expensive accessories, no attempt to impress anyone. Yet there was something different about him, something I couldn't explain. He seemed comfortable, not confident, not arrogant, comfortable with himself. And I realized I hadn't felt that way in years. Over the following weeks, I started visiting the bookstore regularly. At first, we talked about books, then movies, then life. The conversations felt effortless. I never felt like I needed to impress him, which was unusual because impressing people had practically become my full-time job. One afternoon, while helping him organize books, I asked, "So, what's your story?" He laughed. "What do you mean?" "Everyone in New York has a story." He smiled. "Mine isn't very interesting." I didn't believe him. Eventually, I learned that he had once worked in finance for several years, long hours, huge pressure, big bonuses, the kind of career people brag about. Then one day he quit. Just quit. No dramatic explanation, no life crisis, No viral social media post about finding himself. He simply realized he was miserable. So he left. I couldn't understand it. Why would you walk away from all that money? He shrugged. Because I realized I was spending my entire life chasing things I didn't actually care about. His answer stayed with me. A few days later, I showed him my social media profile. Part of me expected admiration. Most people reacted that way. Instead, he quietly scrolled through hundreds of photos. Restaurants, hotels, events, vacations, smiles. After a while, he handed the phone back. Then he asked, "Which one is your favorite?" I pointed toward a photo from California. The ocean looked beautiful. The lighting was perfect. Thousands of likes. Ethan shook his head. "No." I frowned. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean that's your most successful photo." He paused. I asked which memory is your favorite. For several seconds I couldn't answer, because the truth surprised even me. None of my favorite memories were on my profile. Not one. The memories I loved most had never been posted. My father's laugh during a family barbecue. My grandmother teaching me how to cook. A rainy afternoon with friends during college. A spontaneous road trip. Those moments had mattered. The photos online mostly existed because I thought they should matter. That realization unsettled me. For the first time, I started questioning everything. Then one evening, Ethan asked me a question. We were sitting near the waterfront watching boats move across the river. The city lights reflected on the water. The skyline looked beautiful. I was already reaching for my phone when he spoke. If nobody could see your life online, would you still live it the same way? The question hit me like a punch, because I immediately knew the answer. No, I wouldn't. Not even close. I wouldn't go to half the places I visited. I wouldn't buy many of the things I own. I wouldn't spend hours trying to capture moments instead of experiencing them. For the first time, I realized how much of my life was built around an audience, even when the audience wasn't physically there. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the question in my head, again and again. The next morning, I opened my social media app. Then I closed it. For the first time in years, I didn't post anything. One day became two. Two became a week. A week became a month. The world didn't end. Nobody forgot I existed. Nothing terrible happened. Instead, something unexpected happened. I started noticing my actual life. The smell of coffee, the sound of rain, conversations, books, people, silence. I had forgotten how much beauty existed outside a screen. The change wasn't immediate. Some days were difficult. I still felt tempted to post everything. I still wanted approval. Old habits don't disappear overnight. But slowly, the need weakened. Months later, I met an old coworker for lunch. Halfway through the conversation, she looked at me and said, "You seem different." I smiled. Different how? She thought for a moment. Calmer. Nobody had ever described me that way before. Calmer. The funny thing was that my life wasn't actually easier. I still had bills, stress, problems, bad days. The difference was that I had stopped performing happiness, and because of that, I finally had room to experience it. A year after meeting Ethan, I sat beside him on a bench overlooking the East River. Snow drifted through the cold evening air. Manhattan glowed in the distance. The city was just as loud as it had always been. But for the first time, my mind wasn't. My phone stayed in my pocket. No photos, no posts, no captions, no audience. Just a moment, a real moment. And as I sat there watching the lights dance across the water, I finally understood something that had taken me years to learn. The happiest people don't feel the need to prove their happiness, because real happiness isn't something you perform. It's something you feel when nobody is watching. And the moment I stopped trying to convince the world that I was happy, was the moment I finally became happy.